Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast with Angie and Tonya, where we strive to inspire, empower, and challenge you to be your most authentic self. We'll talk a little real estate and interview entrepreneurs, business and community leaders, and hear inspiring stories.
To the Simply Authentic podcast. I'm Angie Mullings.
And I'm Tonya Murfin. Welcome
today, we're talking goals.
We are. It's getting to the end of the year. You and I are planners, so it will come as no surprise to our listeners and probably everybody that knows us that we make a plan for the end of the year for the next year, or at the end of the year for the next year.
Right.
And that also includes, because we're planners and because we're business owners and we're realtors, we include our business plan in that of what we accomplished this year.
Right.
And maybe based off of that, what we want to accomplish next year.
Right.
So
we're talking personal goals, business goals.
All of it.
All of it.
Yes. So, Angie, tell me what your process is. Tell me how, once we get to October, November, what is your personal process?
Well, for my personal goals, and we'll talk about some tactics that we use for setting personal goals. But for my personal goals, I'm, as you said, thinking about what did I accomplish this year? What is going to happen next year that might affect those personal goals? Like, you know, what you have to know, especially in our business, what might change in 2024,
Right.
what might affect the bottom line in 2024. And then personally, when I'm looking at those goals, I'm thinking about, okay, what are my commitments? What are my commitments to GSBOR or NAR or Missouri Realtors? What are my commitments here at the podcast? What are my, you have to figure out. I love, and that's sarcasm, I love it when people say, no, I'm way too busy to do that.
To make goals?
To make goals or do anything.
That's a real dumb statement.
It is a dumb statement. Well, we're all busy. We're all busy.
We are all busy.
And
yes.
To say that you don't have time to sit down and think about what you want to accomplish, because we know that without a roadmap, you can't get there.
Exactly.
If you're going to travel somewhere, you don't have a map to get there on your Google Maps or paper map if you're old school. You can't get to where you're going unless you have a map. It's the same with goals. It's the same thing with anything that you want to achieve in life. You must have goals. So, one way to achieve those goals is to figure out what your commitments are elsewhere, and then figure out what it is that is really important to you, because I think we both are familiar with the term WIG, wildly important goals, and we all need a couple of those. And then I also feel like I need monthly goals. Do you do monthly goals as well as a yearly goal?
I don't do monthly goals. No, I don't.
You just have.
I just have a running list.
Yeah.
Now, something may have a time period on it, right?
Okay,
that I need to do this by May.
Right. And we're going to talk about SMART goals. And that's one of the things about SMART goals is that they have to be time sensitive. When, and I have 5-year plan.
Yes, I do too.
Plan.
1 year, 5 year, 10 year.
So,
for me.
but there are things, I guess maybe that's a better way to say it, that there are things I want to check off my list on a monthly basis. I know I'd like to get this done in the first quarter, so that then a next goal that I might have for second quarter, maybe it's dependent on the first quarter goal.
True, yes.
So you can do it however you want to.
Right.
The big takeaway is that it's really important.
It is so important. So one of my lessons I learned when I became a business owner, and I had never done this before, and my friend Frank Lorenz taught me this, was he had worked corporate for many years of his life before he got into real estate. And he taught me to make your end of year plan and to set goals, and to do it in a 1 year, a 5 year, and a 10 year commitment, if you will, because if you don't think ahead and you don't dream, and I'm very visual. And so I have to see it.
Right.
If I'm dreaming something, I'm going to write it down. Like if I want to dream to own the beach house one day, I'm going to write that down because for me, it just has to be visual. But that's what he taught me. And from that moment on, which has now been 11, almost 12 years ago that he taught me that, I have conquered a lot of things because I started writing down those goals every year. And what it also will make you do, if you've never done this before, it makes you review what you've done that year. So if you don't ever write anything down and you don't ever know what your goals are for the future or your dreams are for the future, then how do you know you're getting there? How do you know you have almost paid off that car or that house unless you're tracking it, right? So this is a tracking method.
Yes.
And it is for business professionals. It is for people who have personal goals. It could be anything from fitness, weight loss, eating healthier, to making more money and making more sales and paying things off and financial dreams. And, we tend to get older, Angie.
We do.
I don't know if you
It's
realize that, but
yeah.
we tend to have a birthday every year. And so
If we're lucky,
if we're lucky, right? So by this age, I am very honed in on my life goals and my business goals and my dreams and all of that. So I hope that if we have any listeners that have never taken the time to sit down and write out goals, that's what I'm hoping for. And if they already do that, I'm hoping we will give some tips to what our methods are.
Right.
And they might learn something that they'll add to their goal setting.
Right.
So
let's talk about those personal goals. So you
Okay.
write them down.
Write them down.
Where do you write them down at?
So I work off of kind of two lists. One encompasses more personal goals of mine, and I just get a blank piece of paper, and I write the year across the top, and I write my word for the year on the right-hand corner, and then I make a list of just sections of the paper of personal goals, financial goals, dreams for the future, travel, where I want to travel this year, because I love to travel.
Yes.
And writing that down makes you, every time you look at this, you're looking forward to getting there. If you haven't purchased that trip yet, or, you haven't made any plans yet, then you want to go there. Then you start getting that kind of in your mind. And then I put a section at the bottom that what I actually spent my money on. So what I've learned each year is on this personal goal sheet is there's always things on there that I didn't plan on paying for, right? And I always, at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, I know I made X. Where did that money go? Because, right, at the end of the year, you've got to pay taxes. You've got to pay for Christmas. We have to then turn around and by January 31st, pay our board dues. There's all these costs that come due at the end of the year.
Yes.
And many times, if you've not had a great fourth quarter, then your funds are depleting, and
Right.
if you don't have any closings, then you're depleting those funds that are in your account. So that's what I do personally. And then for work, I always have a form that I give to all of our agents when we do our ninja retreat. And we actually just had our ninja retreat, and this form came straight from Ninja Selling, and it was very simple and to the point of what were my wins this year, what could I improve on next year, where did my business come from, what can I plan on next year that will increase having less hours in the business and making more money, or I didn't make enough money this year, I'll make more money. So anyway, it's an assessment of the year. And I use that to make my goals for the business, because then I'm always reflecting on that piece of paper of what happened in 23 as I get into 24. And the last thing that I do is I have a net worth goal sheet.
Oh.
And this comes from Ninja as well. I'll share it with you. And on one side, it has four sections to it, if you will, if you can picture that. And at the top, it is your current net worth. So it has what I own on the left side and what I owe on the right side. And then it's a projection for next year, what you are anticipating next year looking like. And it says net worth goal. And then it has, again, what I own on the left and what I owe on the right. So I've filled this out every year for 5 years.
Okay.
And a lot of these forms I hand out to my agents. Even I don't fill them out. But this is one that I have seen my net worth grow because I've been very practical and disciplined in either saving money or saved money paying off things so that I can be financially free when I retire. So I love that form, and I love reflecting on that form because I can pull out that 5 years ago and see who Tonya was 5 years ago compared to now.
Right.
And one would hope that it's better, right? What you owe and own gets, have different amounts each year. And indeed, that's what's happened with me. But I am a disciplined saver.
Yeah.
So if you weren't, it might teach you, if you were to record it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, okay, I'm spending entirely too much money on this.
Yeah.
Now I owe more on this because I took out a second loan on that house.
Yeah.
So that is kind of how I do it. And I'm going to let you tell me how you do it, and then I want us to talk about what we put visually in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not much different than what you just described. I actually personally do the same thing.
Okay.
I write it down. I learned a long time ago that, if it's not written down and not in front of you all the time where you can see it, it usually does not get done. So that's and it does take discipline, when you were talking about your net worth and you can see what a sense of accomplishment when you can look back 1 year, 2 year, 5 years down the road and see what you've accomplished.
Yep.
And sometimes we accomplish something and we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we've accomplished simply because it's just up here. It's just in our mind.
Yes.
But if we write it down and we've got some visual around that, it is, that's a great sense of giving, satisfaction for accomplishing something.
Yes.
So again, not much different than what you do. I write down my goals. As we started out the podcast, I have my yearly goals. I have my 5-year goals, my 10-year goals, and they're always written down and in front of me so that I can reflect on those any given time. Now, I will say this. There are some times I have to adjust because maybe I haven't challenged myself. We're both brokers, and so you sit down with your agents, I sit down with my agents, and I have someone, or I am that person when they come to me and they say, well, I think I'm going to do XYZ this year. Okay, how are you going to get there, and what does that look like? And then if they say something, if their goal is not big enough, if they're not dreaming big enough, then that's my job to say, wait a minute, I think you can do, this is what you did this year. Let's talk about what you could do next year, what you could implement. I don't have that person because I'm at the top of the food chain. Right. So I don't have somebody saying, no, that goal is not big enough. Right. That dream is not big enough. So sometimes I underestimate myself, and I'll get something accomplished in the first 3 or 4 months, and now I've got to adjust those goals because I didn't challenge myself enough.
Got it.
But it's hard when you don't have someone else to looking over your shoulder to say,
true,
that's not a big enough dream, Tonya.
True.
So
I'll be your person, Angie.
Okay, and I'll be yours.
Okay.
And that's what's great. I think there is some power in sharing your goals with someone.
Absolutely.
So that we don't see ourselves the same way as others see us.
Right.
So I think if I were to sit here and say, well, my goals, Tonya, for next year are this, this, and this, you'd probably look at me and go, what? Come on, Angie. You can do better than that.
We are totally going to do this. We're totally.
That'll be next. A year from now, that will be our podcast.
And we will tell how maybe that motivated us.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. That's a great idea. We'll do that. Stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that.
Year from now.
1 year.
So again, personal goals, we do something very similar.
Yeah.
With my office, we kind of sit down and we talk about, I also learned a long time ago that if I set the goals for the office, they're my goals. I have to get buy-in for the people who are in the room.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So we have a customer appreciation event coming up. And I'm not going to put forth the effort to do that unless I've got buy-in from the
Of
entire
course.
company.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that we've already had ours this year. So we sat down and we talked about, is this particular event still working? Do we still want to do it? Is this still, I'm asking the question, do you guys still want to do this?
Is this
I'm not
valuable to
saying-
you?
Yeah, I'm not saying this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
I believe you've got to have voices from around the table and hear what they're saying, and then you set those goals together.
Yeah.
The other question I ask them is, what do you need from me?
Yeah.
What is it? What do you need to learn? What do you feel like would make you a better realtor? And we'll try to work on that. Do you need help with social media? Do you need help with AI is a big thing, artificial intelligence in our industry, so big right now. And so what do you need help on? And then I have a little simple goal setting worksheet that I use for them. And I've kind of scribbled over this one, but it gives them write down 2 things that'll help you get to your goal. So it's not enough to say, I'm going to sell 25 homes next year. How are you going to get there?
Right.
How are you going to market yourself? How are you going to build those relationships to help
Right.
those clients? So 2 things that are going to help you reach your goal. And then steps to reaching your goal. What individual steps, and that's different. There's individual steps that help you get to your goal. And then there's things that will help you reach that goal. So in essence, if I want to sell 25 homes next year, what are the steps to get there? Okay, that means I have to break it down. How many am I going to sell a month? And then what are the things that are going to help me get there?
Right.
I'm going to learn more about my industry. I'm going to, do you see the difference?
Yeah.
So I try to get them to think a little differently. And I don't want a pie in the sky goal that is not attainable. And again, we'll talk about SMART goals, but they have to be attainable. And there has to be steps to get there.
Yeah. Well, and in our business, one of the points that I make at our ninja retreat is, what do you have in your flow right now? So what is going out in your flow in your marketing? And if your answer is, I don't have anything, then that's your first mistake. Because if you set up auto flow, then your business is marketing itself. And you're not having to stop and think about that every single month. What are we doing? What postcard are we sending? So setting up the auto flow, we talk about that throughout the year, actually, because agents are lazy and they don't want to put the effort in, but yet they want to make the money. We have to be good at our jobs in many facets. And so that's 101, I think. Real estate 101 is getting that flow to be automatic. And yes, you have to look at it every single year. Did this work? Did that work?
Right.
I want to add this. I want to do more pop buys. I want to, whatever.
Right.
So that's a big topic that we always talk about.
Yeah. And one last thing I'll say on that is return on investment. You kind of sort of touched on that. If you're going to make an investment, you're going to do postcards, you're going to do door hangers, you're going to whatever. You've got this marketing plan. You must know where those leads are coming from.
Yes.
And that's true in any business. You've got to know what kind of return that you're getting on that investment to know if it's going to be viable for next year. And if that's a goal that you should set for next year.
Yeah, for sure.
So lots of good things there for that. I know you have a method for keeping that in front of you. What's your method?
Okay, so my method, and I actually took a picture of it, Angie, so I want you to get your eyeballs on it.
Okay.
Even though our listeners cannot, you can go, wow.
Oh, wow. No, really, wow. Yes.
Okay,
this is impressive.
So what I do, I have 2 closets in my master bedroom. And one of the closets, I have my ironing board in, and I have a giant chalkboard right behind it. So anytime that I'm ironing, and I iron a lot, or anytime I walk in that closet, I look at this chalkboard. And this giant chalkboard is a little different look than my other 2 pieces of paper I explained to you.
Okay.
It has my word of the year on it. It has my dreams and my travel down one side. And on the other side, I just make a list of things that I want to accomplish, whether it be with work, personally, financially, health and fitness. It could be anything.
Yeah.
And I line that up down the right side. And being a chalkboard, it's written pretty big. Like, I know you can't see, you can't
big it is,
understand
but-
how big that is, but
Yeah.
I'd say each line is an inch big.
Yeah.
So it's big.
Prominent.
Yes. So one of my goals that I got to check off last week was to buy a new mattress.
Wow.
So you can see it's not all like crazy, unreachable goals. It is just stuff that I know I need in my life. And I will say that I started doing this probably around the time that I got divorced. And that's now been 6 or 7 years ago. And I once again realized, okay, it's just me. I'm a single person again. And my future is up to me. So I've got to set those goals, write them down, and for positive affirmation almost,
Right.
at that point in time, I got this chalkboard out and just started writing even the smallest goals because I wasn't in a very good place at that time,
Right.
So I have continued to use that chalkboard for inspiration and for dreams and for travel, and then my yearly list of things that I accomplish. And I can't tell you how inspiring it is to look at that every single day. So I'm in my closet at least twice a day, right? At least once in the morning and at least once at night. And if not more, right? And I'm always reading it. And I learned from listening to podcasts and listening to people who were smarter than I was that if you have a dream and you have a goal, then you have to write it down. If you cannot visualize it over and over and over, it will never come to be.
Right.
And in learning that, I saw things start to happen in my life that simply by putting it in front of myself every day and reminding myself, and no matter what that is, it could be to stop drinking, it could be to, stop cursing, it could be anything. But to see it over and over and over every day, it's powerful.
Right.
And it makes mountains move, and it
does.
teaches you how powerful you can be for yourself.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So that is the method to my madness, and something that I review every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what do you do?
I have a magnetic board that sits above my jewelry, so I'm going to see it again, like you said, at least twice a day,
Right.
Because I'm going to put my jewelry on in the morning, I'm going to take it off at night,
Yes.
and I'm going to see this. And I actually learned this from Carol Jones, who is a pioneer in our industry,
Yes,
in our
she
area, and she was definitely ahead of her time. She talked about her dream board all the time. If you ever heard her speak. And I never worked for Carol. But I would see her speak at different things, and she talked about her dream board, and I call it a vision board. But what I do is I spend, and I haven't done it yet for 2024, but here in a couple of weeks, I will sit down, I'll gather a bunch of magazines up, and I will cut out visuals of the things that I want to accomplish, whether it's travel or something I need to buy for my home, or a gift I want to buy, or maybe somebody's having a big birthday and I want to do something special, whatever it is.
Right.
Like you said, it doesn't have to be, there are things on there that are small, but something I need to work on all the time to achieve.
Yes.
And there are other things that are bigger. And so as I achieve those, that picture comes off the magnetic board. so that hopefully at the end of the year, I have a mostly empty board of things that I've accomplished. So it really doesn't matter what your method is.
Right.
The main takeaway here is it must be visual. It must be something that you can see all the time. And we could say this on every single podcast that we do because we believe this to our core that if you don't dream big and pray big, then it is
It
likely
might
not going to happen.
Yeah.
So those are things you have to do. You have to put it out there in the universe, whatever you believe in, make sure that that is out there for all to hear and understand that that is something that you want to accomplish. So, so that's.
You talking about your vision board for the first time together in our brokerage yesterday, we made vision boards together.
Okay, cool.
And it created this buzz in the room because people are sitting conversing with one another. They're talking about their goals. They're cutting words out. They're cutting pictures out. We were laughing at Ryan Maddox because he kept cutting out food. And so his vision board did end up having more than just food on it, but he just started cutting out a Mexican dish that looked good. And so the point being is if you want a good activity with you could do this with your children.
Yes.
In fact, I would like to do it with my children.
Yeah.
You could do it with friends, get some girlfriends together, get some coworkers together. And I know that's a popular thing in our industry that a lot of realtors make vision boards. But it's very powerful. And being in the room with everybody yesterday and them sharing some of their words and some of their dreams, they've spoken it out loud.
Yeah.
So now for some of them that shared with the group, I can go back or somebody else can go back and say, hey, did you get to travel to the beach this year? Did you get to go on that family vacation?
Yeah.
Have you gotten any further in paying off your house? I just think there's so much power in making a plan. And it could be just a plan of dreams, but how else are you going to get there?
Right.
If you have a dream and you don't put it anywhere out in the universe and you don't talk about it, then how are you ever going to get there? So we hope that we have left you, our listeners, with some inspiration. And certainly, if anyone had any questions or wanted more details or wanted our forms, wanted to see it for themselves, we would love to share that with you to see someone else benefit from what we do.
Absolutely. Happy to share anything that we do. And before we close, Tonya, I want to be sure I've mentioned it a couple of times about SMART goals.
Yes.
And we've mentioned a couple of things that stands for. I'm sure a lot of our listeners have heard this. Maybe you haven't, or maybe you just need a reminder.
Yeah.
But SMART goals stands for specific. So your goals need to be specific. You can't, I shouldn't say you can't. You can do anything you want to.
Yes.
But to be truly resonate with you, it needs to be specific, not I want to travel more.
Yes.
Be specific about where you want to be.
Where you want to go.
Where you want to go. Do you want to own a beach house? You want to own a second home? Or do you want to travel abroad? You want to, be specific in what your goals are.
Yeah.
Make sure that they are measurable. So whether that's a production goal or if you want to lose weight, don't just say I want to lose weight.
Right.
I want to lose
Track
30
it.
pounds.
Yes.
And
have a way of tracking it.
Yes, have a way of tracking things. They must be achievable. And I truly believe we can accomplish anything we want to accomplish, as we've talked about.
Yes.
If you put it out in the universe and you say it and you believe that you can achieve it. But they have to be something that is achievable. And that's why I have smaller goals on my board as well as my larger ones, because I need that sense of accomplishment when I take a few things off of there. I need to say, I'm going in the right direction.
Yes.
Now these bigger goals are not quite as big a bite because I've accomplished these other smaller things on my way to the bigger goals.
Yes.
So they must be achievable. They have to be relevant to you. Ryan choosing to put food on there, for some reason, that's really relevant to him. And another thing, don't ever laugh at someone else's goals because their goals are their own.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Just that is what they want to achieve or what speaks to them.
Yeah.
And so they have to be relevant. And then finally, they must be time-based. So my example for losing weight, if you want to lose 30 pounds, make sure there's a date on that. I want to lose 30 pounds in 6 months or whatever it is.
Right.
So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based.
Yeah. And just remember the SMART goals, and you can remember those. Yeah.
That's right.
I love that.
Yeah.
Such a good reminder, Angie.
Yeah. So I want to challenge you to be bold with your aspirations and
Yes.
your dreams for 2024. We, again, believe that anything is achievable if you put out there. And like Tonya said, we're happy to share our systems with you or give you some other ideas. We'd love to be a resource for that.
Absolutely. So we want to thank Gershman Mortgage for hosting us today, and we will catch you next time.
See you later. Thanks for listening to the Simply Authentic podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.